I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 to order, please. And as we begin, I'd like a moment of silence for our friend and fellow planner, Mr. Roger Krasminski. Thank you. And if you could all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Tuckfield, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shudo.
Here.
Mr. Provenzano. Here. Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Tuckfield is present. Mr. Oliver. Mr. Bentley.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Oliver is absent and excused, and that is all of our members tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion we exclude Member Oliver from all roll call votes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And Mr. Chairman, one other thing before we go any further, I'd like to make a motion we postpone election of officers until our first meeting in February.
Okay.
I would second that if a motion is needed, although I don't know that it's on our agenda. I think we might be able to just leave it sit until the next
Do we
meeting.
need to just leave us at time, or do we need a motion?
I was under the understanding it was on the agenda. Now that I'm looking again, it's not, so you don't need to take any action. I think it might be appropriate, though, when we get down to the, the commissioner comments that you guys, somebody put on and make a comment that in fact because of Charlie's absence or whatever, you're postponing it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Sordi.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, if so additions, deletions, or correction, I make a motion we accept the meeting minutes as read.
Support. Motion by Mr. Shudo, seconded by Mr. Provenzano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And approval of the agenda.
If there's no corrections or deletions, I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Provenzano, supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, new business. A, rezoning request, agricultural AG to residential urban 1, family R1. And before we begin with A, I guess I should say that we have a new consultant planner by the name of Dave Skirdo, and he is from the Carlisle Wortman Group. So welcome, Mr. Skirdo.
Welcome.
Good to have you here. So you're there for A, and do I have the petitioner in the audience? Line up to the seat. State your name for us, please, and address.
My name is Roberto Vitale. My address is 13344 Maple Lawn Drive, Shelby Township, Michigan 315.
Okay. So I'm Mr. Skirdo. Do you have anything you want to share about item A?
I'm reading, upon reading Mr. Maher's comments, Mr. Maher did the review for this plan. In terms of the zoning, it appears that the zoning that's being proposed matches the entire zoning around that area, as well as corresponds and correlates with the master plan.
Right. Okay. Planner. The petitioner. Do you have any comments or questions?
No, I just, like he just said that we're rezoning it for the existing area, so everything matches, and it's on the original site plans.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to open it to the public. Does anybody have anything they want to say about item A? Come to the podium, please. Anyone? Your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Fred Tangelder. 54482 Stillwater Drive, Macomb, 48042. I'm sitting on the board of our HOA in that subdivision that is adjacent to the proposed rezoning. And I just had a few questions about how that's going to impact our sub.
Okay.
Number one would be access to the new development. Is that going to come off of 25 Mile Road, or are there other plans?
What we do is we'll take all the questions, and then at the end, our planner and our consultant will answer most of them for you.
Okay.
So you're talking about access?
Yep.
Okay.
A part of that would be, is there going to be a tie-in to Biscayne Drive, which sort of dead ends into and points towards that area? There's a wooden fence that I believe the previous owner had erected. Biscayne ends right there.
Okay.
And then another question would be that fence. It's a big wooden fence, about 6 feet tall, runs along the entire shared property line. Just wanted to know if there's plans for that, what plans there might be. And then last question would be retention pond. Are they going to have their own retention pond, or are they going to tap into the retention pond that we're currently maintaining?
Okay.
I think that's about it.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up, sir.
James Miller, 17743 Canal Lane, and I live in Penzine Farms, that I butt directly up to the property in question. And I want to know about the grade level. Right now, there's probably a foot difference higher than mine. And I know when they built our sub, they took all the dirt and made it lower. So we have the runoff. And how is this new sub going to affect our water pressure and our utilities that we already have a strain in the township? I mean, we have to consider all this stuff. We got too many new homes going in and not enough infrastructure. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome, sir. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Cindy Maston, and I live at 17752 Huron, also a Penzine Farms resident. And adding more onto what Fred was saying about the fence that's back there now, it's my understanding that the previous owner had plans to remove that. I don't know if they were going to replace that with a new fence. But what's happening is the trees on your property are actually digging up the fence that's currently back there. So I just wanted to make sure that that's addressed, and that, is that going to be taken care of, replaced? I mean, my guess is with the beautiful homes going up there, the new homeowners aren't going to want to be looking at that eyesore either. So I just wanted to bring that up from the beginning, and hopefully that's something that you've already taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kathy Strauss. I also live in Penzine Farms at 17891 Salinas River Way. And with it being so close to the roundabout, I question the traffic, because right now with coming in and out, it's kind of difficult and people go flying through there. And I know some people in the sub across the street have even asked for lighting, which they said that you guys have declined or wanted them to pay out of pocket. So the lighting needs to be fixed. And then we can't even walk to the parks. I think that's something that needs to be addressed. We got parks down the street. We can't even get to them. There's no sidewalks to get there. And then with the recent flooding, it's I don't know if that's such a great plot of land to build on with all the water that came over with the last rainfall that we had, on top of everything else that everybody else has already addressed, and especially concerning that pass through into our subdivision.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have anything for us? Hearing none, I'm going to turn it over to the planning department, Mr. Van Tiffelen and Mr. Skirdo.
I'll take some of these questions. With regard to many of the questions, these are more related to the next step in the process. Tonight, we're strictly considering the zoning of the property and whether it's proper to rezone the property from what it is now to what is being proposed by the petitioner. The next step would be for them to submit a preliminary plan for department review and the planning commission to consider. So many of those questions will be addressed at that point. You'll be able to see what the plan is, how they're going to access the site, whether detention is required, which I can tell you that it will be. The grade difference, that's something that will happen in the step after that, which is engineering review. So all of that, comes at a later stage. It's actually, this is the first of really a 4-step process before construction can actually begin. So even the fence issue that was brought up, that'll be clearly indicated on the drawings that are submitted to the township and will be given to the planning commission to consider what's going to happen with the fence. So we don't know those details at this point. There's something that will come at a later date as they go through the process.
Okay. Everybody understand it is a 4-step process. So even if we approve the rezoning tonight, it's still got lots of steps to go through. So a lot of your concerns will be addressed. All right? Commissioners, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I have one to Mr. Van Tiffelen. This rezoning would fit into our master plan, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
I just wonder, we didn't realize that, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that.
You're welcome. Yes.
I had one question, maybe a clarification, on what would be the northeast corner of the area that is currently agricultural. There is residence, I believe, there. Is that going to remain if this rezoning gets approved? Will that remain agricultural?
It will remain until either the township goes in and rezones the property or a property owner comes in and requests a rezoning.
So if the rezoning is approved, that portion will be split out and remain agricultural?
This piece is all being rezoned. I think it's perhaps the piece next door that might be AG. Is that?
Well, it's highlighted in yellow as being just,
That's a separate piece of property.
okay,
Yes.
Chris, you looking at this one?
yes.
Yeah, that is separate. That's where that line
And
is.
so that'll remain agricultural.
Yeah. At some point, a number of years ago, maybe 10 years ago, the township had a program where they went in and rezoned a lot of these smaller pieces like this. So this would be a good candidate for that, to rezone it to R1, which is what it would probably be more appropriately zoned according to the master plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further discussion, I would like to make a motion to recommend approval of rezoning of permanent parcel 0808200009 to the Township Board of Trustees. This motion would be based upon the recommendation from the master plan and all the various departments that have given us recommendations, along with the similarities in use of this parcel and the surrounding parcels.
I'll support that.
Seconded by Mr. Shudo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for coming out for this.
Thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome. All right, B, special land use, Sunny's Pools and More. Permanent parcel 0818-326-002, located on the west side of Industrial Drive, approximately 443 feet north of 23 Mile Road, Section 18. Kevin Zakarsky? Zarkarski. I'll trust you. Petitioner. Mr. Skirdo or Mr. Van Tiffelen?
I'll take this. Yeah, Sunny's Pools is in front of the Commission for Special Land Use. They currently are occupying a building at 5113 Industrial Drive. The special land use allows them to store limited more volatile materials that they have. Based on a number of reviews that we saw, the engineering department is fine with the special land use. Planning department has reviewed it per the zoning ordinance, as long as there's no loose materials or there's any type of volatile, flammable material like that stored, improperly stored, it meets the zoning. The issues, other issues that are in front of you are the building department still has to approve the building construction, and the fire department still has some comments on a firewall and some other issues. And our recommendation from a planning standpoint is to approve condition that all building department and fire department restrictions are met.
Okay. Petitioner.
I'm all for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's, all the building departments that have come out there for inspections and such since March of last year.
Right.
Have been addressed, and the fire department was out there about 2 weeks ago. I believe the gentleman is Mr. Garman, or Gearman, that's the fire department person. And besides some height of boxes stored too high on a pallet rack and one exit sign, they seem fine. And we've had conversations with them about storage of chemicals and how to properly for what they want and the amounts of what they want stored. We've had discussions and very good ones. So we're proceeding along with whatever they tell us to do. And we worked with the building department and all their different recommendations and doing what they're asking us to do.
One of the specific things they asked for was a firewall.
Right, well, this is the first thing I've heard of a firewall.
Okay,
So,
okay. But you're okay complying with everybody?
sure, absolutely.
All right. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, to the petitioner, you indicated that, I thought I heard you say that you've talked with the fire department. Is that, they said that with the exception of a couple of things and actually signed the boxes, that they were okay with everything?
Yes,
Did you speak with them subsequent to December 30th, 2019? Was that just recently?
That
Because
was
they,
the most recent they were out there, yes.
when was that?
About this, you said December 30th?
Okay.
I believe that's the day they were out.
Okay.
And he sent me a note in my email that talks about storage, which was our conversation, storage of boxes or some inventory that was too high, some stuff stacked in our office of boxes that was too high, and an exit sign that needed to be put in one of the rooms. Conversation's been going on all summer long as we were educating each other about our product and such, about storage and handling, how he would like to have it done, and that's all been addressed. But a firewall I haven't heard about, but no problem.
Okay. At this time, I'll open it to the public.
I have another,
Oh,
I have
wait a
a
minute.
question
I'm sorry.
too.
Mr.
To the
Shudo?
petitioner. This will be your corporate headquarters, correct?
Yes, it's a distribution network for my other stores, located in Metro Detroit area, and as we do internet work of selling product and taking care of consumer services.
And you did have a retail store in 23 and Hayes, correct? Was that where
Right
your
in the
store was?
corner in front of the Imagine Theater. That was
Right.
the old pool store, and we were there for many years too.
Now, my question to you is, will your corporate headquarters, your warehouse, also be a retail store?
Yes, there is retail there.
And will it be set up like your retail store in 23 Mile and Hayes, where the customer came in, all your chemicals and so forth were in the back room? Or will the customers have, can they walk through your warehouse and select chemicals?
Well, the way the building is laid out, you come in the front door, you go into the storage warehouse area, and then we have pallet racks up that they can't get past.
Okay, so they'll talk to a clerk to get the chemicals or
Correct.
things that they need. They won't be going there and accessing the chemicals in the warehouse and bringing them up to you.
Not in the warehouse section itself, just in the retail section area of
Okay.
the building.
So it's basically set up like your old store where you'll have maybe pool chlorine and things like that, pool testing. If anybody needs bulk things or whatever, they'll have to contact a clerk, and the clerk will go back and get it for them,
In large cases, yes.
correct? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bentley?
So just a couple questions for the petitioner. As you've been speaking, it sounds like you're already using this facility for this
Yes, we were.
purpose.
When we moved in there in March, we found out afterwards that we needed to do some things. So we've been working with the building department here, having different inspectors come through, telling us what had to be improved from what we thought was already perfect from the previous owners was Randazzo Heating and Cooling, who was doing service, corporate, sales, retail. And so we've been in this process since May of filing for this petition and correcting any of the violations that were now noted since we moved in from the last building owner. So we do not own the building physically, we're renters. The landlord itself has been working with us with all the details, and the main thing that was the fire suppression system that had to be updated or alarmed and mandated and all that, which has all been taken care of. But we have been doing retail there, or our services or our internet deliveries or loading or unloading a truck since we've been in there since approximately March 17th.
Okay. So the plans that were submitted with your application do not reflect the current status of the facility?
No, it was done at this, is what we was set up for that time was what the plans were.
Okay.
So it isn't changing from what we offered back in June for the June meeting.
It is not?
It isn't changing. It stayed the same as we asked for it.
Okay. So therein lies my last question is this letter that we've received from Sergeant Ryan Gearman, fire inspector, and that was dated 12/30, which is about the time you spoke with him, still requires that there be a fire separation of 1 hour. The plans indicate there's two open, significant openings in that firewall, and the door that is there is not a rated door. But also your application indicates there will be no alterations to the physical building. Has that changed?
Well, this is the first I've heard of a door that needs to be changed or modified, or a wall changed. So this is new to me, what you're telling me. If a door has to be placed or a wall has to be rebuilt, no problem.
Okay.
The landlord itself is a great gentleman, and he just wants us to be successful. He wants to sell the building to me in the future. And if some doorways or doors have to be changed, whatever, no problem. Like what I said, ever since they came in March and April and May, working with the building department and the township here, we're not arguing about anything. If they say you put up this, we put it up. If you say I need a different door, no problem. I said, we worked with you folks in the old building, and safety is an utmost concern for not only our employees but our customers in the neighborhood. So we do everything possible to watch out for this. And I'm in the pool business. I'm 61 years old. My first day was in 1973. My main concern is safety. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Hands up, doesn't matter. So if the fire department, which Mr. Gehrman suggests this, I'll be glad to contact him tomorrow and make sure he advises what I gotta do and we'll get it done.
Yeah, my concern, at least through this evening, was, and then hearing that you're already in operation, that the storage is ongoing right now. There is no 1 hour protection. The latest we have is his letter of 12/30, and we're required as well to look at safety, the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens, and having the public access that front area with no fire separation. And that fire separation didn't have to be that existing wall. It could be a separate wall. My concern is that you're not aware of any of that and yet have had this conversation with the fire department. And so I'm not sure if there's a lack of communication here or what safeguards we can employ to make sure that happens and it doesn't continue. down the road. And I apologize for the time that it's taken to, and that you're just hearing this, but that would be my concern here.
Again, the inspectors from the fire department, we've had great conversations and such like that. And I don't remember recognizing anything of that nature in his letter. Again, the last conversation was some of the storage was a little bit too high. I mean, got the tape measure out, measured it, was 14 feet instead of 12 feet. And it was 6 boxes, no problem. An exit sign, okay. It can be done. If a wall has to be built or changed or a door has to be put in, and my only thought is the door he's talking about is a glass door. So maybe that door has to be removed and put in a fire door. That's fine.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna dictate what has to be done, because it can be a smaller space that you can enclose. I just know that there are quantity requirements, for any controlled area and fire separation requirements. So we need to make sure that those are met. And we're, as the planners indicated, are not we're not following that portion, but it's a little, to me, a concerning, to make sure that that does happen.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open it to the public.
I have one more question before
did you,
we
Mr.
close.
Chairman?
Yeah. Mr. Van Tiffelen?
Yes.
Do they have a required number of handicap parking places in this facility right now? Because it is a retail, they have to have X amount of handicap parking. Do they meet the requirement? Maybe if you can't get to us, we can get back to us in the
Yeah,
future on
I
that.
would have to get back with you. Patrick was the one that reviewed it for those items. He did not mention it
Okay.
in his review comments. That
I just want to make sure that if it is a retail, that we have the number of handicap, because like you said, you've been in the pool business for years, and handicapped people use pools just as much as physically able people. So, I don't know, do you have any handicap spots there right now, do you know?
2.
Okay. So we do have spots, and that's all I wanted to make sure that it was there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Tuckfield.
Mr. Hardy, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't mean to drag it out, but I had a few questions as well. I'll try to keep it brief. I guess the first one would be to Mr. Skirdo. I should make sure that I'm pronouncing it correctly. Very good. First of all, welcome. Happy to have you here. I just wanted to confirm on your report here, you mentioned that you were comfortable with it, assuming 2 items. One of them was that no combustible, odorous, flammable, explosive, discarded material, or equipment is stored. And I just want to make sure you're still comfortable that that's the case, even with the note from the fire inspector on some of the materials that they're going to be storing there.
Well, I'm gonna lean on, at that point, it's the ordinance statement, but I will lean on the fire inspector, is that everything that he says is met.
Okay, very good. And I was pretty sure that was where you were. I just wanted to make sure that I had that confirmed. I did also want to just clarify that our note here from the fire inspector, Mr. Van Tiffelen was good enough to briefly talk about this with me. There are 2 requirements that he's talking to us about in here. One, that he wants a fire barrier, and the technical requirements aren't really our jurisdiction. I also believe he wanted to maintain a separation between the retail space and the storage space for customers, that they would not be going in the warehouse. I think it makes sense and it's a good thing. I did have one other concern, and all of these other concerns are maybe leading me to one place, but that is specifically with the parking lot. Obviously, we're not doing a site plan here, but we do have retail, and I noticed on my site visit, on this drawing that we have, the west portion is drawn as a parking lot. However, in practical application, I believe it is fenced in, and you have some trucks and some material back there. And I just wanted to make sure that we were comfortable that we had sufficient parking, since the actual site does not mirror the drawn site. I think I counted 19 spaces, roughly. There was snow on the ground, I might be off. You had indicated that you generally have 13 to 15 employees. If it's a retail operation, I was a little concerned. I don't know what our parking requirements are. Our industrial retail section is relatively new, and I don't know what we were requiring. So there's some questions here, and I want to make sure the petitioner is we're confident that he knows what we're voting on tonight. I'm wondering if it makes any sense to table this and give him a chance to make sure that he's aware of the report, and you know, there's some different things here, and we're trying to mesh everybody in. Maybe it makes sense to give it 2 weeks and make sure we're all on the same page. I'm wondering if anybody else is thinking that at the moment.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Van Tifflin his thoughts on that?
If the, you know, the petitioner doesn't have any objection to that, we can certainly look into the few items regarding the parking that have been brought up. And that'll give him a chance to speak with the fire department regarding the specifics on the.
In particular with the bill, and obviously, you're a good business owner. I know you've been operating there. I don't think this is an issue where you're not going to do something. I just like making sure if we're approving something that's going down that trail, that we do it with you know what's coming as well as us, because I don't want to put a burden on you that you're not familiar with. So
I'm a business person, change of the world, things are doing different things, there's rules and regulations, I have no trouble with that. I'm a business person who just wants to do a good job and make everybody, my employees, and the consumers, and the neighborhood safe.
And we appreciate it.
And be a good business owner in the county of Macomb Township, so.
Yep, we appreciate it. And please don't let anything I'm saying convey or otherwise.
Working with the building department, the people here have been really good. You've had some difficulties, change over them. Just tell me what I need to do and we get it done.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question to the petitioner. With the age of the internet and people buying online, and I'm sure you have a website where people can buy online, how many people do you think are buying online now instead of coming in week after week buying chemicals when you can have them delivered to them?
More than you want to know.
Pardon me?
More than you want to know. So when you talk about parking places,
Well,
no problem.
that's my point there, is that if you're getting more people on the internet buying through your internet, I just want to know if you've seen a decrease in foot traffic since, let's say, 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
Before there was a lot of internet buying. Because I know a lot of times anywhere you go, you can buy at a Target or a Kohl's or something like that. You buy online, walk in and walk out. Even Lowe's has that now. So I was just wondering if you've seen your internet business pick up and your foot traffic decrease since your website and people buying online.
the main thing that we wanted this building was for, to move out of the building at 23 and Hayes, is to be able to do more internet work. Because walk-in traffic is down 50 to 70%.
Okay.
Easily. We sell things to Puerto Rico. It's all on the internet, and that's where it's going. So as we see Lakeside Mall, as we see Partridge Creek, it's a changing world.
So like Kroger's, if I order online, you'll deliver it to me. I don't have to step into your store.
Absolutely true.
I hope you don't mind me using Kroger's as an example.
Absolutely true. That's where we want to work towards, because people are busy, people are not coming in, people are not shopping. So I said the building itself is mainly more for that future work. The landlord, building owner and us has a future agreement to buy it from him as he's ready to retire. The gentleman's 85 years old, great guy. And he's looking for where my future is going to go, and that's when we moved out of the 23 and Hayes stores, that you had no room to do
Right.
of stuff. And our main stuff is not chemicals to ship.
Right.
That's too difficult and too expensive.
But,
Again,
but I'm just glad that you chose Macomb as your new location. I just want to get your input as
yeah.
far as how the internet affected your retail business and foot traffic coming into and from the store.
yeah, we plan on being there for a while. My son's in charge of the internet. He's 28 years old. That's the next step. I want to go have fun in a
Good.
few years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Van Tifflin.
Okay, before we go to the motion, I need to open it to the public. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Anyone? All right, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commissioners. Do we have a motion?
I can make a motion to table, but I want to see what are people in agreement with that? I mean, if the general consensus is not to.
Okay. I would be in agreement.
Okay, well,
No, I'm good.
that being said, then I will make a motion to table this item 2 weeks to our next regularly scheduled meeting, assuming that is okay with the petitioner.
Sure.
And that would be February the 4th of 2020. To give the petitioner and okay. just making sure we have our dates correct. And that would be to allow the petitioner and staff to make sure we're communicated and that everybody's on board before I move forward.
May I add? Is it possible to get since you've had discussions possibly be after this letter from the fire marshal, if we had something updated from the fire marshal, that they have been in discussion or that they are ongoing?
For my motion, I would prefer to leave it out of it, just because I think it's a building thing. As long as he's familiar with what's in the process, I don't think we really have any authority. I don't think we can put it on a site plan. I don't think we have any authority over it. So for my motion, I would prefer to keep it off of that.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like a roll call vote.
Mr. Tuckfield?
Yes, sir. Mr. Tuckfield votes yes. Mr. Bentley?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Provenzano?
Yes.
Mr. Shudo?
No.
Mr. Chairman, that vote was 4-1. The motion passes. That item is tabled.
Thank you, sir.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Where does this leave me as we stand? I'm just
Talk with the planner.
talk to the gentleman over there,
Yep. And they'll get you situated.
and we'll figure out what we're gonna do and talk to the
Absolutely.
fire department. We're good to go.
That'd be good.
Okay, thank you.
You're okay.
For me, and just as I was making the motion, I just want to make sure I underline it. I just want to make sure that everybody is on board. So you heard stuff tonight that we talked about. I want to make sure you have a chance to talk to the people who gave us these recommendations, who are going to have things for you to do in the future that we have no effect over. Since it plays into our potential motion, since we have to take it into account when we make our motion, I want to make sure that you're fully aware of what it is before we do.
Okay.
Because I can't speak for the fire department here enough to describe what we have in front of us.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, item number 7, old business. Mr. Skirdo, any old business? No old business? Public comments on don't leave. Public comments on non-agenda items. Anyone? Anyone at all? Okay. Commissioners' comments.
I have a couple. First, like I talked earlier in the meeting, about postponing the election of officers until the first meeting in February. I think since our chairman isn't here, we don't know if he's going to say yea or nay or to accepting the position. And until then, I think we need to postpone it, and those are my thoughts on that. Second, I'd like to thank Roger for everything he's done for this community. Some people may call him old guard. I call him a friend. I call him a true friend to this township. A lot of people don't understand what Roger did for this community. Roger served on a board for, I think, approximately 30 years. He was a trustee and a treasurer. Roger also was very instrumental in our rec center. Roger also takes care of the flags that veterans bring here every so often. He makes sure they're disposed of properly. Roger is also a member of the Knights of Columbus, and I think Roger was a true friend to this community. So I just hope I speak for most, if not all, the members of our board that Roger will truly be missed by all, and rest in peace, my friend.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I just follow it up briefly. I also worked with Roger in a couple of places, and he will be missed more than a lot of people realized. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
He really was.
And I had an opportunity just a couple of weeks ago to talk to Roger Krasinski, the son. And we were at the house. And Roger's last wish was everything is to be donated. You know, usually when family passes, you have an estate sale to make money. His only goal was that it went to a worthy cause. So, and I had the good fortune of getting the soldier that's kneeling in his front yard is now in my front yard. So we had a nice heartfelt talk with Roger's son. And, yep, he will be missed.
He was a Navy guy. My son-in-law's in the Navy, and he used to talk to me about how he met my son-in-law. And he was proud of the fact that he was Navy, and he will truly be missed. I learned things from him because he's got way more experience being here than I do. So, as you said, may you rest in peace.
Number 10, we don't have a liaison, so we'll skip that. ZBA comments?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Planning Department items? Nothing? Okay.
I have a question, if I may, of the planning department.
Okay.
For our consultant, Carlisle and Wortman, and per our previous discussions with our planning department, there were a number of things that were in the works, which I'm only assuming that your company has been tasked with, but updating the master plan and such, and the ordinance. And I just wondered if that has been scheduled, or if there's any input you have on your direction there.
I'll address that. Kind of parallel to what Dave is doing in doing the day-to-day stuff for the planning department, the township is also conducting interviews for the planning director position. Last Thursday and Friday, we held, I think it was 7 interviews with potential candidates. The township is still considering them. We've got some good candidates. We're hoping to be able to make some recommendations to the township board here shortly. I would like to, if we can, hold off on doing any of that until this gets cleared up, because I'd like the new planning director to have, obviously, a hand in that.
Understand.
And I don't want to start them down that road and then have them go in a different direction. We may end up doing things twice. So if we're just patient for a little bit, I think we might have a good result here.
Absolutely. Thanks for the update.
You're welcome.
So then, Mr. Van Tiffelen, we'd have a planning director, and Mr. Skirdo and his company would be consultants.
Yeah, it's similar to the way it was when Jerry Smyser and Jack Daly were working with us. It was like that when Patrick started, where Dave is performing the planning role.
Right.
I'm still overseeing the way the department runs and making sure that everything is being done from an administrative standpoint, but he's the one that's doing the reviews and giving the recommendations. If we do get a planning director, what will end up happening is the planning director will decide how they're going to use the planning consultant going forward. Obviously, Mr. Bentley outlined a number of items that we need to get going on. They're aware of it. That was part of the interview process for the consultant. The interviews that we had last week, the planning director candidates understand that many of them have reviewed our master plan and know when it was updated last. So they recognize the fact that this thing needs to be updated here soon. So I think we made it clear to most of the candidates that that'll be a top priority. There's some ordinance amendments. The sign ordinance is one that has been discussed at the Planning Commission. So we just are hopeful that we'll be able to make this work within the next few weeks, and then we can hit the ground running, because he'll have the horsepower with the planning consultant, and we'll have a director that'll be able to give them direction.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bentley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.